Welcome YMCA members and guests. My name is Alex and I'm going to be your virtual instructor for today's lesson. Thank you for choosing the YMCA of San Francisco for all your community and learning needs. We're so glad that you're here. Today I will be leading you through a woven art activity that you can easily do at home with your kids, with your families, or even as an adult if you have some spare time. So the materials that you're going to be needing for this activity are going to be 2 sheets of white paper, a pencil, some scissors, a ruler for measuring when we make our strips for weaving, and finally something to color in your piece of art. So it could be watercolors, which I'm using today, it could be paint, markers, colored pencils, whatever you have at home. And then if you are painting, I have an extra cup of water just for dipping my paintbrush in. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be picking a subject for our art. So this could be anything that you can see inside, outside, your favorite cartoon character, your favorite flower. So today I'm going to keep it very simple and I'm going to be drawing a starfish. So my scene is going to be a starfish. So you're going to first take your pencil and 1 sheet of your white paper, and you're going to draw out the stencil for your art piece. So I'm just going to draw my outline of my starfish right now, and then we'll come back and I'll show you guys what that looks like. So once you are done creating the outline of your art piece, it should look like this or similar, just with a pencil outline of what you want your scene to be. So mine is going to be a starfish. So there's my outline for my starfish. Very simple. The simpler the stencil, the easier it will be to replicate, which is what we're going to be doing next. You're going to take that second sheet of white paper that you have, and you're going to copy almost exactly what you just created on your first sheet of white paper. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this starfish on the second sheet of paper that I have, and I'm going to try to make it the same size and shape as this starfish that I created. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the closer you can get, the easier it will be for us to weave it all together and make it look nice at the end. So once you're done with that step, you should have 2 almost identical stenciled out art pieces that you're going to be using for your project. As you can see, I have 2 starfish outlined. They're not exactly the same, but they are pretty much similar in shape and size. So that'll be perfect for our art activity today. The next step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be coloring in both pieces of art that we've stenciled. So today I'm going to be using watercolor, which is the thing that I have on hand today. But you can use anything, like I said in the beginning. It could be markers, colored pencils, crayons, whatever you have at home. And go ahead and paint those in. You can either paint them an identical color, so you can paint them orange, like I have one already ready to go. You can paint them both orange if I'm going to do that. Or you can change it up and mix up the colors. At the end, your project will look a little bit more abstract with multiple colors involved, but that's the beauty of art. It can be whatever you want it to be. So right now, go ahead and paint your outlines. So once you have finished painting, your artwork should be all filled up, just like the ones I have here. So today I chose to do the same colors with both of my art pieces. So my starfish are going to look pretty identical. If you chose 2 different colors, have no fear. I have an example for you as well to see what that will look like if you're still hesitant on painting them first. So today we're going to show how these can be woven together to create one piece of art. So the next step that we're going to take is we're going to start measuring strips of one of our pieces of art. So you can pick whichever one you want to start with. I'm going to go with this one. And you are going to start measuring on the edges of one side horizontally 1-inch marks across. So the way that we're going to be doing this is we're going to take our handy dandy ruler. The only ruler I have is this giant one here, but this will work. So you're going to take the edge, and remember we're going to go horizontally, or what is this, hamburger, hot dog style? I don't know what the style is, but flat across, not long ways. And you're going to take your ruler and measure it up with the edge of your art piece. And then with the pencil that you have on the side that you used for outlining, you're going to start measuring off 1 inch marks on your piece of paper on the edge. So just like this, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1, all the way across until you hit the end. So this might be very hard to see, but you can see at the edge that I have a couple tick marks. And you're going to flip over your paper and do the same thing on the other side. And then by the time that we're done, we're going to join these together so we make the straightest line possible. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your ruler again, match it up to the edge of your paper, and go ahead and mark those 1 inch marks. Okay, so you should have 2 sets of tick marks on each edge of your long-sided paper. And what you're going to do next is you're going to take your ruler and match up each of those tick marks across from each other and draw a line across connecting both dots. And I'll show you what I do in 1 second. So connecting these 2 dots across from each other, and I'm going to make a line right down the way to connect them. So what you can see here is that I've made a thick line all the way down connecting those 2 tick marks at the bottom. So I'm going to take another one and go all the way down until I reach the end. So now that you have gone and measured your lines down your piece of paper, you're going to have a piece that looks like this. So you see how I have evenly 1 inch lines all the way across. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to take our handy dandy scissors and we're going to cut each strip from our paper. So one at a time, I'm going to go across and cut all the way down those lines that I just So after you have cut those lines, those 1 inch lines across your painting, you should have a bunch of strips like these. So what you're going to do is just set those aside, and we'll be using them after we cut our next piece. Now that you have your first set of strips cut, you're going to take your second painting, and you are going to do something similar, but it's going to look a little different for this one. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our ruler and measure a 1/2 inch section from the edge, from one of the edges, whichever one you want, horizontally first. And you are going to measure 1/2 inch and just mark that and draw a line right down. This section will symbolize a space where we won't be cutting. So this is where we will cut up to, but not, we won't be cutting through it. So this will just keep our whole art piece intact. Now that we have measured off that 1/2 inch section up at the top of our paper on one side of the paper, we're going to turn our painting vertically with that section up on top. We're going to lay that down and we're going to measure off 1 inch sections just like in our first strips, but we're going to go across with the paper facing vertically, and we're going to go 1 inch sections all the way across that line. I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm taking my ruler along that line that we made in the beginning. And mine was just a little crooked, so I'm just going to go off my line just a little bit, but that's okay. And I'm going to mark each inch section on that line. So going across 1 inch, inch by inch, till I reach the end. So my paper is about 7 inches by 10 inches, but yours will be a little different, and that's totally okay. However many you're measuring just by inches. So once you've measured off your inch sections on your painting, it should look like this. So you have these little tick marks measuring out each inch. So once we're done with that, we're going to take our ruler and measure down the line all the way down vertically, our strips, but we're not going to include this section. That section remains uncut for the rest of the time that we're going to be working on this piece. So by the end of it, we'll just have an art piece that looks like this. So this is my first piece that I've made as an example. Once you've finished cutting your second piece, it should look like this, with it still being attached right here on that edge mark that we sectioned off in the beginning. So once we have that, we're going to lay that flat in front of us horizontally, like this. And then we're going to pick up our strips from our first painting, and we're going to begin weaving these into our painting. Now we could begin by just taking any random strip of paper and weaving it into our painting, but we're first going to sort our strips of painting so that they match up with the way our painting looked like before we cut it. So I'm going to show you what I mean. We're going to lay these out and then, like a puzzle, put them back together again. Now that you've put your pieces back in order, you're just going to pick them up one at a time and layer them together. So by doing this, you are going to take the one strip at a time from one side. We're going to start with the left side. So we're going to start weaving it left to right. So we're going to take the left piece first, pick that one up, and then pick the second one up right underneath, and then everything else following. Now we should have our second painting that we cut laid out in front of us. Remember that this is the one that's attached on the edge there. And we're going to lay that out horizontally. And then we're going to begin to weave our painting strips one at a time into our painting. So we're going to take that first strip and we're going to go with a technique. It doesn't matter which one you start with, but you're going to want to alternate every other strip. So this is what I mean. So we're going to take the top of our painting and we're going to stick that extra strip right underneath. So it's going to go under and then it's going to go over the second strip. And then we're going to lift that third one and make sure that strip goes right underneath it. And then under the third, over the fourth strip, and then under the fifth, over the sixth, and then under the seventh strip until you have your first weave. This one won't look as miraculous as the others, but stay tuned and you will see that it just keeps getting more and more abstract as we go. So the next thing, we're going to take the second strip, and instead of starting under, we're going to go over this first strip, under the second strip, over the third, and it's going to take some adjusting. Take your time. Under the fourth, over that fifth one, it's already over it, and then you're going to take a strip, go under the sixth, and then over the seventh. So that way you have your second weave. And you can shove them over so that they're more bunched together, closer to the edges over here. You should have your second weave. It should look just like this. All right. Now we're going to take the third one. And instead of what we did in the last one where we started over, under, we're going to go under, over, just like we did the first strip. So under the first one, under the second one. So it's going to take a little maneuvering. Sorry, under the first one, over the second one, under the third, over the fourth, under the fifth, over the sixth, and then under the seventh strip. So that it ends up looking like this. And I'm going to repeat that pattern until we hit the end of our painting. All right, so by now you should have a finished product that looks similar to mine, that looks very different than what we started off with. So originally I had drawn a really lifelike starfish on both sheets of my paper. And once we've cut them up and interwoven them into something different, they've become one piece of abstract art. And so what I mean by abstract is that it's become something that is not really mimicking real life. So they don't look like it doesn't really look like a real life starfish, but it does look like something very unique and something that you have created, that you've made your own. And you can always take it apart, rearrange your strips of pieces wherever way you want it to even make it a little bit more unique, a little bit different. And if you decided to do two different colors for each of your paintings, like I did in this other example that I made of butterflies, you can even make it even more surreal and abstract, or intermix the two paintings that you created. So you can make a starfish butterfly. So that was our super fun, super simple art lesson for you today. Thank you so much for joining me and the YMCA of San Francisco in our virtual lessons. We'll have so much more fun and interesting activities for you here on YouTube in the next coming weeks, so please stay tuned. And thank you so much for being a part of our YMCA community. I want to give a special shout out to my Jefferson YMCA after school kids, as well as our Argonne YMCA after school kids. We miss you so much and can't wait to see you guys again. Thank you.